Have you ever heard of a mythical tale that tests the boundaries of love and obsession at its finest and warns of the consequences it brings with it? Well, if you haven't and want to, you're in for a ride in today's video. The story of Echo and Narcissus. The story starts when Liriope, a nymph from ancient Greece, has a newborn baby and summons Tiresias, a powerful oracle, to ensure that his son will have a happy and long life. The oracle said that he would unless he failed to recognize himself. As you would expect, the myth of Narcissus is a tale of narcissism at its worst. Narcissus isn't the only character in the narrative though. Echo also has a significant role. The history of Echo and Narcissus is about the strength of love, a sort of love so strong that it may become an obsession. This obsessive love is the essence of the Echo and Narcissus myth. Liriope saw her son's extraordinary beauty when she looked at him. By the time Narcissus has reached adulthood, this had been clear to everyone. Men and women made an effort to win his affection and attention, but he didn't appear very interested in anyone. The nymph Echo, whose name originates from the Greek word for sound, was one of the ladies who fell in love with Narcissus. Once upon a time, Echo was a talkative woman with a reputation for cutting off other people's conversations. She made the mistake of helping Zeus, the ruler of the Greek Olympian gods, and keeping his extramarital relationships a secret from his wife, Hera. Echo would tell long stories to Hera to keep her distracted whenever she was about to catch Zeus with someone else, allowing Zeus to escape. Hera cursed Echo never to be able to voice her opinion aloud again as soon as she recognized what she was doing. Instead, Echo would be restricted to merely repeating the last word spoken by someone else. One day, Echo came upon Narcissus in the woods, and captivated by how he looked, she started watching him. There was one issue though. As Echo followed the youngster and grew more and more drawn to him, Echo was unable to speak to Narcissus. She had to wait for him to talk before expressing her feelings to him. Narcissus eventually became aware that he was being followed. "Who is here?" he said. "Here," repeated Echo, still hidden. Unable to identify the caller, Narcissus asked the voice to approach him. Echo acted quickly and jumped outside. She moved to embrace Narcissus while opening her arms. He wasn't as excited though. He yelled at Echo and asked her to take her hands off him. Echo, in shock, and disappeared into the woods again. Echo sprinted towards the woods while crying. The rejection was too much to take and was too cruel. Finally, Echo decides to live alone in the forest because her love for Narcissus is so solid and obsessive that she cannot tolerate how he treats her. But the memory of her rejection kept coming back. In the end, her emotions were so strong that her body eventually withered away, leaving just her bones and voice. However, Echo's voice continues to exist in the woods, and it is among the hills that she is still audible today. Echo's terrible demise was nevertheless noted. She was well liked by other nymphs and woodland dwellers. So many were enraged with Narcissus for subjecting her to so much needless misery. The goddess of vengeance, Nemesis, agreed to assist when she overheard the voices in the forest pleading for revenge. Narcissus was drawn to a spring's peaceful, crystal-clear waters by Nemesis. After a long day of hunting, Narcissus decided to stop and get some water. He sipped from the spring and noticed the tranquil waters as he did so. He could see his features more clearly than ever in the natural mirror. He gazed at his reflection more and more as he drank more water. The first shock became awe. Awe into love, and love into addiction. Narcissus couldn't move. He was raging with the need for the guy he saw in the spring water until his picture completely neutralized him. He unsuccessfully attempted to embrace the idol before realizing it was his reflection in the still lake. He starts to worry that love would be permanently beyond his grasp, since he would lose sight of his one and only love if he left. Narcissus gradually came to the agonizing realization of his fatal fate as he started to realize he was beyond his reach. Nevertheless, he still struggled to restrain his emotions and suppress his desire. Narcissus was terrified that his image would vanish if even the slightest wave in the water disrupted the water mirror. After finally accepting the futility of his attempts, Narcissus lost the will to live and reluctantly said, "Farewell." Echo, who had been watching, returned his words like a whisper, "Farewell." When Narcissus sat down on the grass, Life started to leave his body as his devoted love gave way to existential despair. The following day, a flower with white petals and a yellow center stood where Narcissus had previously been lying. This continues to be referred to as the Narcissus blossom. Narcissus still examines his mirror in the Stygian waters, even though he is now in the underworld, one of the rivers in Hades. Not everyone who loved Narcissus tragically perished, including Echo. One of the first people to genuinely try to win Narcissus' affection was Amanius. The latter rejected Amanius and sent him a sword. At Narcissus' door, Amanius kills himself with the sword while pleading for Nemesis to get revenge. After that, Nemesis enticed Narcissus to a spring, where he fell in love with himself. There are also a few different versions of the story. When Narcissus lost his will to live, he did not change into a flower. Instead, Narcissus commits a violent suicide to put an end to the myth. There was a sister for Narcissus as well. They hunted together, had the same appearance, and were dressed similarly. After his sister passed away, Narcissus went to the spring to catch a glimpse of himself in the water and trick himself into thinking it was his sister. He was wildly in love with her. According to Longus, a Greek novelist of the 2nd century CE, Echo lived among the nymphs who taught her to sing. Her voice got more robust and better as she developed, eventually surpassing even the gods in beauty. As she grew, her voice became more beautiful until she could sing better than the gods. Animals and people alike became insane about Pan. They attacked and devoured the nymph in their rage. The animals and people who had eaten Echo then carried her voice throughout the earth. The earth goddess Gaia ultimately concealed Echo's voice within herself. Echo's cruel punishment for her divine artistic skills is reminiscent of Arachne's myth, in which Athena was also punished for surpassing the goddess in the art of weaving. Echo and Narcissus, deeply heartbroken, chose death, or rather, nothingness. On the other hand, Narcissus decided to end his life after recognizing he could not love anyone other than himself. In contrast, Echo lost the desire to live after someone else's rejection. If we pause to think about it, the tale of Narcissus is not about a young man who adored his reflection in the river. Instead, it deals with a boy's inability to love others other than himself. Above all, it is possible to see the transformation tales of both Echo and Narcissus as a caution that love and obsession are frequently closer than we realize. The word narcissism starts popping up in our news feeds more and more regularly in the era of social media. The story of Narcissus serves as a helpful reminder that excessive self-love is neither new nor healthy.